So when we talk about living in a poor area, I just want to prefix this a bit because I live in the UK, um, and what we deem to be a poor area or poverty is clearly not the same as it is if you live in other parts of the world. I mean, our idea of living in poverty is probably quite a luxurious lifestyle compared to some people who really truly live in poverty in some parts of the world. So I just wanted to put that out there before we start, because obviously, depending on where you live in the world, when we talk about poor areas, obviously we're not all on the same platform. So I also want to start by saying that I grew my business living in what is deemed to be a socially deprived area. So I live in a housing estate in Kent, and we are what's known as a socially deprived community. That being said, I grew quite a successful full-time business doing balloons and venue decor. And I remember when I first started out, this was a real anxiety for me around pricing, because I knew that lots of the people who lived local to me were sort of low to average income households. So therefore, I thought if I put my prices up, people are really not going to be able to afford what I want to offer. And we do have a very wealthy area right beside our estate. So we're here on the King's Farm estate, and next to us is a single well area, which has £1 million houses. And so I thought, I'm going to offer my wares and I'm going to market to people living in the wealthier part of where I live. And what I actually found is disposable income does not necessarily dictate how much people are willing to spend, because we all have different values as to what we're prepared to spend our money on. And I assumed that the more money you had, the more you would spend on balloons. But what I actually found was people living in the wealthier housing did not see balloons with the same value as to what people did in the lower income area. So people did buy balloons in the wealthy houses, but I found they spent less, they ordered less. They might order 1 or 2 balloons, but they really were not into large orders. Now, that's not to say it's the same where you live, because areas do differ. But I say it was an eye-opener for me, because actually what I found was people in the lower income area, their values about what they wanted to spend their money on really did differ. So for example, if you look around the estate I live, you will find lots more people with gigantic tellies on their walls compared to the people that live in the £1 million houses. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have gigantic tellies, but the point I'm trying to make is we as people decide where to spend our money. And even within the poorer areas and the higher income areas, people within those areas will have different values to their next door neighbour as to what they're prepared to spend their money on. But the majority of my larger orders and my income actually come from people who had lower disposable income. Now, obviously, you have the super rich, you know, the Instagram influencers and the party planners. And you see it on Instagram where the party planners are organising these massive parties with these huge, great balloon installs. And to be honest, that's another level altogether. But if we're just looking at your average customer, what I would say is, just because you live in a poorer area does not necessarily mean customers won't pay the prices that you want. What I will say though is differentiation is key. So if you are offering exactly the same, what I call inflate and go balloons, where you're just inflating balloons with helium as the company down the road, and they're a lot cheaper than you, of course people are going to go to the cheaper, because there's no value in coming to you and paying more. But if you differentiate yourself, and if you come up with designs that people cannot get anywhere else, and if you build a loyal follower, then you will find that people, even with lower disposable incomes, are prepared to pay more. And that's certainly what I found running my balloon business. Sometimes as well, when we live in a poor area, our own perception of value and what we are prepared to spend on certain items can cloud your judgment about what other people are prepared to pay. So, for example, if you yourself wouldn't spend a huge part of your income on balloons, then already you're in the mindset that nobody else will do too. So you have to be much more open to the fact that what you believe isn't necessarily the reality. And the other thing that you have to do is you have to sell to emotion. So what I found in my own balloon business is that people with lower disposable income were more likely to want to create more of a wow factor for special celebrations. If you're unable to shower your children with money throughout the year, that makes birthdays all the more important, because ultimately, as parents, we all want to create special memories for our children. When it comes to weddings, we all want to create that wow factor. So what I found was, certainly living in a lower disposable income area, is when it came to birthday parties, there was a lot of competition with mums, Elf on the Shelf, all these type things. It was all about, making sure that their child fitted in at school, was seen to, what you've got to remember is when you've got a child of perhaps the age of 6 or whatever, your child is going to lots of other birthday parties. You go through phases in your life. And as a parent, what you find is, your little Joey or Johnny or Rebecca or whoever your child is will find that throughout the year that there'll be multiple birthday parties they're invited to. And what I found my best customers were the mums who wanted to make sure that when everyone went back to school on Monday morning after the birthday party on Saturday, everyone was talking about how amazing their child's party was. It's almost like theirs was the party to beat. The other thing that I found with weddings was that lots of my brides in a lower disposable income area could not afford the luxury golf courses and the big hotels, because generally speaking, they had much bigger families. They wanted far more friends. They didn't want an intimate wedding. They wanted to enjoy the celebration with everyone they knew. And if you live in a lower disposable income area, you cannot afford £45 a head, generally speaking, to cater for your guests. So my customers were very much booking your local village halls and just venues where they could do self-catering or get a caterer in much cheaper. But what they then were faced with was like a dreary background to their wedding. And balloons were a cost-effective way of being able to transform the background to their memories of that big day. And this is what you need to be selling to. You're selling to the emotion that balloons help you decorate your memories. And I found that when I started to include that in my marketing, it was very powerful in my area. The other thing that I did a lot of was I offered payment plans. So for weddings, for large birthday parties, etc., many of my customers would pay for their balloons throughout the year. And I know that opens up all sorts of logistical issues, but the way I managed it was I would set it up through PayPal installments. Yes, you do pay a fee on PayPal, but if you're operating as a business, Fees are all part of it. You just take it off your profit margins. You don't then pay tax on it. So I set up PayPal installments, and the customers could literally go in and pay as they felt throughout the year. And I kept the money to one side in a separate bank account until their event, because it's always, you know, especially like we've learned with COVID, refunds are horrendous. So I never actually spent their money until I'd done their event. But what I did find was that by offering payment plans and the opportunity for the customers to spread the cost, because people in lower disposable income areas are much more used to not paying things in full, for getting sort of payment plans, for using catalogs, that type of thing. They then were much more likely to spend more money. And what I actually found was quite a few of my customers would regularly pay for their balloons early and then go, oh, well, I've got a bit more money, I'm going to add to my order. So that happened quite a lot. Now, if you really, really, really do live in an area where you cannot justify selling at least the minimum selling price, having calculated your prices properly the way I've shown you in the previous videos, you've got a real difficult dilemma. Because in order to run a sustainable and profitable business, you cannot be selling below those prices. So then you've got to look at two things, really. So the first thing is, are you going to move your, a lot of us can't physically move, but are we going to move our business geographical net for capturing our customers further afield? So if you live in, I don't know, a remote village where nobody's going to pay your prices, do you need to be marketing to the nearest local city and then traveling in to provide your services? Because if you're selling below minimum selling price, you're really just running an expensive hobby. The other thing that you can do, if your personal circumstances, or it just does not make business sense to work further afield, is look to diversify the services you offer. But be very careful with this, because I'm a real believer in bright, shiny object syndrome. And this is where we offer so many different things, it becomes really difficult for customers to exactly know what we offer and for us to be able to market properly to the right people. So what I would recommend you do before you decide you're going to have to spread your net further afield is to really question, first of all, your own anxieties about your beliefs that you live in a poor area, and secondly, to look at the options you've got in terms of your marketing for emotions. Look at your portfolio. Look at the type of customers you really need to be attracting into your business. Tweak your marketing. Look at offering payment plans, and definitely differentiate your business, because I will promise you that actually there probably is far more business than you think there is in a poor area. It's just that you either haven't got your products quite right, you haven't differentiated yourself, you're not marketing in a way that talks to your customers, and definitely offering payment plans helps. So depending on where you're watching this video, I'm hoping quite a lot of you will probably be watching it in my group. But if you found this video on YouTube or on my Facebook page, I'd like to invite you to come over to our free Balloon Biz Academy community. It's a Facebook group. It's only open to people who run balloon businesses. And every day we have a daily business discussion. We have live trainings like this, masterclasses, and there's lots of tips and resources to really help you grow a successful balloon business. I hope you found this series useful. If you've got any questions, ping me a DM. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you in the next training. Bye for now.